So I don't know how this is gonna go. I may end up deleting this if the video is super bad. It is an utterly gorgeous day here in South Texas, and I'm going to lunch with a friend, and it's like literally 6 blocks away, and I'm like, why on earth am I gonna waste gas, given how expensive gas is, when I could just walk, right? And I thought while I was walking that I would share something with y'all that I've been thinking about in terms of how homeschooling affects us as parents, and how we can actually leverage homeschool to make ourselves better. And I know, we tend to focus, for obvious reasons, on how homeschooling is going to affect our kids, right? We talk a lot about how homeschooling can improve their mental health, how it can actually improve socialization, thank you very much, how it can improve just their overall life experience because it's taking them out of a high stress situation, or it's, giving them the opportunity to have an education that is actually tailored to them. It fits them. It makes sense for them, right? But I think one of the things that we forget, well, actually, let me come at it from this direction. We do, as parents, change because we parent, right? We, when we look back at, how we parented when our kids were little versus, maybe how we think now about discipline or whatever, we change over time because even just our experience of parenting ends up changing how we parent, right? Same thing happens as a homeschooler. The longer you homeschool, the more it changes you. And I think we have a tendency to kind of think of that as just like an accidental byproduct, like it's a thing that happens. Yes, you're going to change as you homeschool, but we don't necessarily think of that change as maybe being one of the reasons why we choose to homeschool. And there's a quote that I'll see pop up every now and then in homeschooling groups. I've seen it a few times over the last couple of years, and I'm not going to paraphrase it, very well. Unfortunately, I should have looked it up before I left. But it's the idea that, oh gosh, how exactly do they say it? Basically, the idea that maybe the reason you were called to homeschool has more to do with changing you than it does with changing your kids. And I thought, wow, what a fascinating idea, particularly for those of us who are Christians, who believe that God does call us, that He has specifically said, hey, y'all, you need to do this, right? What if it's not just because of what it's doing for our kids? What if it's because of how it is going to change us, how it's going to influence us, how it is going to grow us, not just as parents, not just as homeschoolers, but as individuals, how it's going to grow us spiritually, how it's going to grow us in our personal discipline, how it's going to grow us, how it's going to grow our understanding of history and science and math and all those things that, we do tend to talk about as homeschoolers and say, oh my gosh, I know I learned this stuff when I was in school, but I didn't learn it nearly as well as I'm learning it now that I'm having to teach it, right? We talk about that kind of effect all the time, but I don't think we think very often about the fact that maybe the reason for why we're called to homeschool is because of how it's going to change us. And one of the reasons why I started thinking about this was because I had decided to walk to see my friend for lunch, right? It's like I said, it's like, I don't know, 6 blocks away or something. It's like less than a 5-minute drive, right? If I get a red light on the way there, it's going to be like 5 minutes. So it's not like it's a big, long drive. And so it's not going to be a crazy long walk. But I don't like the outdoors. I don't like the outdoors very much, particularly here in Texas, and not because it's not beautiful. We literally live in the middle of a forest. I'm sure if you're watching this video, you can see all the trees around me as I walk. The area that we live in was literally carved out of the Sam Houston National Forest, or State Forest. State? National? I think state. And so it's beautiful. But the bugs here are big, y'all. Everything's bigger in Texas. The bugs are big. The sun gets hot. I mean, it's, we've had an actual winter this year, but it's quite toasty today. The fact that I'm walking isn't going to help, right? But but I've never been a big outdoors fan. Outdoors, I think, is kind of gross a lot of times. I don't like it. But when I was creating the simplified homeschooling framework, one of the 7 pillars is recreation. And a big portion of what recreation kind of as an overall umbrella concept covers is being outside, because God has wired us, y'all, to be so positively influenced by being in nature. It calms our heart rate. It opens our lungs. It helps our bodies to relax. Even like literally even just watching, like, I don't know if your TV does this, and maybe it's just the kind of TV that we have. It's almost like a computer. Like if it goes to sleep, it has like a screensaver, and it's just one gorgeous picture after another of like nature stuff. And I will sometimes just sit and stare and watch this thing go because it's beautiful and it calms me down. And they say that's actually true. If you can't get outside, watch like National Geographic or something that gives you that interaction with the world, with the outside world, with nature specifically, because God has wired us to be influenced that way. And when I was creating, people might think, well, okay, so she created Simplified Homeschooling Framework. I'm sure she just stuffed all of her favorite stuff in. No, I didn't actually. I put in the things that I knew were important, but they weren't necessarily things that I like. I don't like the outdoors, y'all. But I knew that the outdoors were important. I knew that our kids benefit when they get outside, when they get lots and lots of outside time. I know that our brains are affected by getting our hands in the dirt and like, you know, like not just staring at the stuff, but actually experiencing it, right? Texturally, I'm not sure what word I'm looking for there. Our kids need that. But you know who else needs it? We do. And so, yes, I put that as a key element of the Simplified Homeschooling Framework, but not because it's something I enjoy. The Simplified Homeschooling Framework is not like Allison's favorite ways to homeschool. Some of those ways are not my favorite ways to homeschool, but I know how important they are. And I know that all of those elements working together create an amazing educational experience. And so I started thinking, and I'm like, okay, am I going to practice what I preach? Am I going to stretch myself? Am I going to make myself get outside, even though I don't like to go outside, even though it makes me hot and sweaty, even though there's big scary bugs, even though I don't know what poison ivy looks like, and I'm always afraid I'm going to accidentally stumble into it. And I'm going to make myself do this because homeschooling and what I have my kids do is not just about my kids. It's about me. It's about making me a better version of me. It's about growing myself, my appreciation for nature, right? My appreciation for God's world that He's given us, that I do love to appreciate from like inside my house. I love to stare out the window at how beautiful everything is. But I know that that's not how He meant for me to be. He meant for me to be out, actually experiencing His world. And so if that's something that I believe is an important value, and I'm going to tell other homeschoolers that I think they should do that, then I kind of have to do it too, right? And so, full circle, here I am outside, walking, probably making y'all motion sick with the bouncing of the camera. Sorry about that. Sorry for I have very short arms apparently because I can never get a good selfie and not have half my face cut off. So sorry that it's like right there. But this is what homeschooling is about, you guys. It is not just about what we do for our kids. It is not just about giving them, an incredible experience. That is a huge part of it. You could even say it's the main part of it. But we need to remember too that when God calls us to homeschool, He's not just thinking about our kids. He's not just thinking about how it's going to affect them and what kind of education it's going to give them. He's calling us as the parents of those kids to be the ones homeschooling. And that means that we are going to grow as part of that process. So, whether that means that you need to maybe dedicate some more time to deschooling, that's definitely growing yourself. Maybe it means that you need to practice a little more of what you preach to your kids about not spending time on screens or time spent reading or whatever. I think we need to start talking more about that. I think we need to start stretching ourselves more and holding ourselves kind of to the same standard that we ask our kids to achieve. So I'm coming up to the one light that I have between here and the restaurant, and there's going to be a lot of traffic and it's going to get loud. So I will wrap this up here. Thank you to those of you who stuck with me on this. I would love to hear what you think. Please comment and tell me, Does that resonate? Does that make sense? Do you agree? Do you disagree? And if it's kind of spurring you to think about ways that you can improve yourself, I'd love to hear about what areas you think you might work on. All right, you guys, I hope you're having a beautiful day wherever you are. I will talk to you again later. Bye.